Imagine this, you're at a lavish dinner party in Europe, sometime in the 1600s. The chandeliers are glowing, guests are laughing, and the host brings out the main course with a dramatic flourish. But instead of roasted duck or a golden brown pig, the dish is something far more disturbing. Ground up human remains. And the guests, they dig in without hesitation. Sounds insane, right? But this isn't a horror story. For centuries, Europeans didn't just collect Egyptian mummies, they ate them, crushed into powders, baked into breads, even mixed into wine. What started as medicine turned into one of the strangest obsessions in history. And trust me, you won't believe how far it went. Let's rewind to the 1500s. Europe was in the middle of the Renaissance, an age of discovery, art, and curiosity. Explorers were bringing back treasures from distant lands, but nothing fascinated Europeans more than ancient Egypt. If you were a noble or scholar who wanted to show off status, you needed Egyptian relics, statues, artifacts, and especially mummies. These weren't just seen as preserved bodies. To Europeans, they were exotic wonders, conversation pieces, and even supposed miracle cures. Merchants displayed them like luxury items in shop windows. Imagine strolling through Paris or London and seeing an Egyptian mummy propped up next to silks and spices. And it didn't stop there. The elite would even host mummy unwrapping parties, friends gathered around with wine in hand, peeling away ancient bandages like some kind of morbid entertainment. What was sacred in Egypt became a fashion statement in Europe. Now here's the real question. How did anyone look at a 3,000-year-old mummy and think, yep, that's medicine? It all started with a giant misunderstanding. In Arabic medical texts, a natural black tar-like substance called bitumen, or mumia, was praised for its healing powers. Europeans, seeing that Egyptian mummies were dark and shiny, thought, they must be preserved with this magical stuff. And so the confusion began. Doctors came up with something called sympathetic medicine, the belief that preserved flesh could transfer its preservation power to living flesh. In their minds, eating a mummy was like swallowing an immortality pill. If this body survived thousands of years, surely it could keep you alive longer too. And this wasn't fringe thinking. Some of the biggest names in European science and philosophy were fans. The royal doctor of France prescribed mummy powder. King Charles II of England even drank a potion made from crushed skulls and mummy extract. To them, it was cutting-edge medicine. So what did people think mummy medicine could actually fix? Well, pretty much everything. Headaches, nausea, broken bones, epilepsy, internal bleeding. If you had it, there was a mummy cure for it. Apothecaries stocked mummy powder, like modern pharmacies stock aspirin. Some doctors even mixed it into wine. Yes, mummy wine was a thing. Others made pills, ointments, and plasters to slap directly onto wounds. For centuries, medical textbooks casually included mummy as an ingredient in their prescriptions. To them, it was everyday medicine. And because it was expensive, it also became a kind of status symbol. If you were wealthy enough, you could drink wine infused with a pharaoh. Imagine clinking glasses at a party and bragging. This vintage straight from the tombs of Egypt. When demand for mummy medicine exploded, it created one of the strangest supply chains in history. Egyptian tombs turned into gold mines. Grave robbers raided burial sites, dragging out bodies by the dozen. Merchants stuffed them into shipping crates like cargo, sending them off to Europe. And once they arrived, some shops even had mummy grinding stations, where customers could pick a piece and watch it get crushed fresh, like some horrifying spice market. But here's the darkest part. The craze grew so fast that Egypt was running out of real mummies. So suppliers got creative. They started making fake mummies from freshly dead criminals or hospital corpses, wrapped them up in bitumen and cloth, and boom, authentic Egyptian mummy ready for sale. By the 1600s, Europe had consumed so many mummies that Egypt's tombs were nearly empty. Entire chunks of ancient history were gone, all because people thought eating them might cure a stomachache. Imagine this. It's 1680s France. You're at a high society dinner party, chandeliers glowing, violins playing. But instead of roasted pheasant or fine wine, the main course being served is ancient Egyptian mummy. Guests passed around plates of dried flesh, scraped from preserved bodies. They drank wine mixed with powdered mummy, ate bread baked with it, and even sweetened their drinks with mummy sugar. For the elite, This wasn't weird, it was fashionable. But it didn't stop there. Aristocrats held unwrapping parties, where guests gathered to peel off the wrappings of a mummy just to gawk at the corpse inside, like some morbid unboxing show. Others painted portraits using mummy brown, a pigment literally made from ground human remains. The rich bragged about the vintage of their mummy meals, claiming their dish came from a pharaoh or priest. Some doctors even prescribed specific body parts: the skull for headaches, the heart for heart problems, the feet for leg pain. For centuries, eating and displaying mummies was not just medicine, it was entertainment. So, what finally stopped Europeans from eating mummies? It wasn't because they suddenly grew a conscience. It happened slowly, piece by piece. By the 1700s, grave robbers themselves admitted a dirty little secret. Most of the ancient mummies sold in Europe weren't ancient at all. They were freshly dead bodies from hospitals and execution grounds, wrapped up and passed off as Egyptian. Suddenly, that royal cure didn't seem so glamorous. At the same time, medicine was starting to change. Scientists began testing remedies instead of just trusting tradition. And guess what? Mummy powder didn't actually cure anything, unless you count making people sick. Then came Egyptology. Scholars who studied hieroglyphs realized something shocking. These weren't objects, they were people with names, families, and beliefs about the afterlife. That hit hard. The same society that once threw mummy dinner parties now saw the practice as barbaric. By the 1800s, museums collected mummies for study and preservation instead of medicine. Eating them went from fashionable to shameful. But by then, the damage was already done. Countless mummies had been destroyed forever. So, what do we take away from this bizarre chapter in history? For centuries, Europe's brightest minds, kings, doctors, even philosophers, swore by mummy medicine. They believed eating ground-up corpses could cure headaches, stop bleeding, even grant strength or long life. Today, it sounds insane, but back then, it was science. This story shows how dangerous common knowledge can be. Entire generations believed in mummy medicine because tradition and authority told them it worked. And in the process, priceless pieces of Egyptian history, real human beings, were destroyed forever. The truth is, they weren't monsters. They were people trying to survive sickness with the knowledge they had. But they were wrong. And their mistake reminds us how easily even the smartest people can fall for bad science when curiosity, fear, and status mix together. So next time you see a new miracle cure trending online, remember this: at least it doesn't come from eating 3,000-year-old human remains,